chosen one. Something is moving beneath the surface of your life, and you must brace yourself because someone has been using deep fake AI of you, and you're about to be given evidence of exactly what they have done. That low hum in your gut and the persistent flicker at the edge of your awareness were never anxiety or paranoia. They were prophecy, acting as a precision instrument to alert you that something was being deliberately engineered against you. As this deception is exposed, you are positioned to walk out of the wreckage cleaner and more powerful than when you walked in. Let us talk about who you are. Because before we can fully understand what happened to you, we have to understand why it happened. What you are not ordinary. You know this, not in an arrogant way, but in a factual way. There is something that moves through you when you speak, when you create, when you simply occupy a space. People feel it even when they cannot name it. They remember you. Your words stay with people long after a conversation ends. Your energy lands differently than anyone else's. You pull people towards something better just by being yourself, without effort and without performance. One dial dot right. You stand where you are, you turn, you shine. The people who are lost, the people navigating their darkest passages, the people who did not even know they were searching for a signal, they find their way home because of you. You do not go looking for them. You do not advertise your light. You simply are what you are, and it reaches farther than you know. Thou hears soul. Now here is the thing about lighthouses that nobody tells you. They also make enemies, not because they do anything wrong, not because they are aggressive or loud or invasive. Lighthouses make enemies simply because their light exposes what the dark was hiding. And the dark does not like being exposed. The dark has interests. The dark has an agenda. Your light, chosen one, has been disrupting that agenda simply by existing. Tordinate, so someone looked at you, someone watched you for a long time, longer than you know, and longer than they ever admitted to anyone. They watched the way people were drawn to you. They watched the opportunities moving toward you, the recognition building, the collaborations forming, the doors opening in your direction. And something bitter twisted inside them and said, there is space for only one of us, and it is going to be me. That was the moment the operation against you began. It goes back further than you think, and it is about to be fully exposed. The person behind this did not come at you directly. People like this never do. Direct confrontation requires courage, and courage requires character, and this particular individual had spent their character long ago on something that was not worth the cost. So instead they went underground. They went quiet. They went to work in a way designed to be completely invisible to you. They took your face, your image, your name, and they used technology, deep fake technology, AI fabrication tools to construct a version of you that has never existed. They built a fabrication wearing your face, doing things you have never done, saying things you have never said, moving through manufactured scenarios designed to make you look untrustworthy, unstable, and unworthy of the very opportunities that were already on their way to you. This was not a rumor. Rumors are vague and deniable. What was created against you was built with precision, refined over time, and made to look just real enough to plant doubt in the minds of the people who mattered most to your path, the people who were supposed to invest in you, the people who were supposed to collaborate with you, the people who would have looked at you and said, yes, this is exactly who we need. This individual needed those people to hesitate, to step back, to go cold, and so they manufactured a reason for all of that to happen. And some of those people did hesitate. You felt every single one of those moments. You just did not know what was causing them. The doors that quietly closed, the opportunities that seemed to vanish without explanation, the collaborations that got close and then suddenly dissolved. The people who warmed to you and then inexplicably cooled, none of that was coincidence. All of it was a coordinated campaign against your name. But here is the first truth you need to lock onto and hold. Every campaign leaves a trail behind it. Every covert operation leaves evidence. And the deeper the operation, the more time invested, the more resources deployed, the more sustained effort expended, the longer and more damning that trail becomes. This person was not careful enough. They were too confident in their own invisibility. They went too far. And now every move they made exists as a receipt that is about to be placed directly in your hands. The evidence is coming. Hold on to that knowledge. The person behind this did not act alone. That is what you need to understand next, because it shapes everything that follows. Running an operation of this scale required cover. It required someone close enough to your world to feed information inward, to validate the lie from a position of familiarity, to make the fabrication seem credible to the people receiving it. And that person was found and recruited. The tragedy is that the person brought in was not purely malicious. They were wounded, they were manipulated, they were worked in ways they did not fully recognize while it was happening. There was someone in your orbit, perhaps someone you trusted, perhaps someone you considered an ally, perhaps someone you simply never identified as a threat, who was being used as an instrument against you. This person carried their own unhealed pain, their own vulnerabilities, their own internal places where doubt could be planted and cultivated. And the architect of the operation against you identified exactly where those places were. The architect pressed on them deliberately, fed this person a constructed version of you, designed to confirm every existing fear they already carried, and over time, with enough sustained pressure and enough carefully whispered suggestion, your reputation inside this person's mind was shifted away from the truth. This person may have even done something that hurt you directly as a result. They may have said something damaging, spread something false, or distanced themselves in ways that cost you real opportunities. Not because they were purely malicious, but because they did not fully know they were a piece in someone else's calculated operation, and did not fully understand that everything they had been shown about you was manufactured. If this message activated your knowing, hype this video to connect with more chosen ones on this journey. Friend, to this trumpets the note you of you argue. Right now that person is waking up. Something has cracked the fabrication open for them. Maybe they accessed information they were never meant to find. Maybe they looked at something more carefully and noticed where the construction was showing through. Maybe the person who had been directing them made a careless mistake that revealed too much. Whatever the catalyst, the fog around this person is lifting, and they are moving in your direction. Pay close attention to who approaches you. Pay attention to what they are carrying when they do. Wonder for the hour that is raw you now, then I'm just bold him if you can stop use. John the worry do it if you got through a ball from up. You need to understand exactly how this technology was used against you, not to frighten you, but to arm you. When you understand the mechanism, you understand why what was built against you is provable. And when you understand why it is provable, you understand why the person who deployed it against you is already on the losing side of this. Deepfake technology functions by mapping a face onto existing footage using artificial intelligence. The software studies the specific geometry of your features, the precise proportions of your face, the way your expressions move, the micro-movements that belong only to you. It learns your face in considerable detail, then it grafts what it has learned onto footage you were never part of, constructing the illusion that you were present, that you spoke those words, that you engaged in those actions. The earliest versions of this technology were crude enough to identify with careful observation. Edges flickered at the wrong moments, eye blinks were mechanical rather than natural, and lighting on the face did not match the lighting in the surrounding environment. But the technology matured quickly, and it became significantly more convincing. The person who came for you either developed the skill to use these tools or paid someone who already possessed that skill. What was produced was calculated specifically to damage your name, your credibility, and your access to the opportunities that were building around you. Then look, you already know the attacks weren't random, and if you're paying attention, you can feel it. Their walls are closing in. You've also noticed something else. A lot of Chosen One channels on YouTube have gone quiet. Videos removed, voices pushed off the platform. The mainstream media is cracking down on us, but we will not give up our voice. So let's talk about what we're doing about it. That's why I built Destiny Engine. And when you join, you're not just supporting your favorite channels, you're also fueling your own rise. It's a 360 win. It generates personalized sequences that help you rewire betrayal into transcendence, turn isolation into sacred power, and transform their downfall into your rise. We are using the Dark Elite's own weapons against them, taking their declassified consciousness technology that programmed competition and scarcity and repurposing it to serve cooperative intelligence. The beauty is, you don't even have to lift a finger. You put on the headphones, press play, and your subconscious is rewired while your enemies collapse under the weight of their own lies. This is why I created it in the beginning, so everything they did to break you becomes fuel for your purpose. The collective upgrade is underway. Start your Destiny Engine trial today, risk-free, and watch divine justice accelerate in your life. Link in the description. Here is what they did not account for. Every AI-generated image and every AI-generated video carries its own forensic signature. Pixel-level anomalies exist that are invisible to the human eye, but completely legible to specialized detection software. Metadata inconsistencies appear that cannot be explained by any natural recording process. Compression artifacts show up in precise locations where authentic footage never produces them. Just as a forged document fails under proper authentication testing, fabricated digital media fails under forensic examination, and it fails in ways that reveal not just the fabrication itself, but the tools and methods used to create it. The person who built this against you used technology that was, from the beginning, designed to be detectable. Every tool capable of fabricating digital media has a corresponding tool capable of authenticating it. The professionals who examine what was created about you have access to exactly those authenticating tools. What they find will not only prove that the content is fabricated, it will trace back to the source. What you are not walking into this situation with feelings and frustration alone. You are walking into it with forensic evidence that can be formally documented and formally presented. That distinction changes the entire nature of what is about to happen. Until the practice, it's what the practice. One end by the trust nodal dextromix fund out that's to form. There is a dimension to this that goes deeper than the fabricated images and deeper than the professional damage. What was being done to you was not only reputational in nature, it was energetic. Your vitality, your creative output, your confidence, your forward momentum, your capacity to inspire and move the people around you carries a specific quality that belongs only to you. When you are operating in alignment with your calling, when you are moving purposefully toward what you were built to do, that quality is extraordinary. It radiates outward. People feel it when they encounter your work, your voice, your presence. The person behind this operation had no comparable quality of their own to draw from. Whatever genuine reserves they once had were long since depleted, so they found another method. Through obsession, through relentless focused attention, through positioning themselves as a counterfeit version of you and harvesting what you generated, they attached to your energy and presented the reflection of it as their own authentic expression. The people around them believed they were witnessing something real and self-generated. What those people were actually observing was borrowed light, and the name on it was yours, taking your likeness and wearing it for their own advancement. That is not merely fraud in the legal sense, though it is absolutely that. It is a violation so intimate that it reaches beyond what most existing laws were originally written to address. They wanted your face because they wanted what your face represents to the world, your calling, your credibility, your influence, your light. They wanted to be received the way you are received. Since they could not build that through honest means, they decided to take it. But here is the immovable truth about stolen light. It does not sustain the person who steals it, and it never can. Light is not a commodity that transfers permanently from one person to another. It is a living expression of something that exists inside the person who generates it. You, chosen one, have never stopped generating, even in the seasons when you felt most drained, even when your confidence dipped in ways that confused you, even when your momentum felt inexplicably lower than your circumstances deserved. You were still producing. The energy was simply being intercepted before it could fully return to you and compound in your favor. That interception is over. The cord has been severed. What you are going to feel in the near future is the return of energy that was rerouted away from you, and you will feel it first as a clearing, a sense of yourself arriving back to yourself, solid and warm, and unmistakably your own. The person who sustained themselves on what they took from you is now running on nothing. You, by contrast, are refueling in full. Fully, this needs to be said plainly, because you deserve to understand the exact shape of what was circulated about you and how deliberately every piece of it was aimed. The fabricated content created using your image was not distributed carelessly or randomly. Every piece was targeted at something specific, a relationship you valued, a community where your influence was growing, an opportunity that was actively forming, a reputation you had built through consistent and genuine work. This was not an unfocused attack. Every piece of fabricated content was placed with a specific and intended outcome in mind. Todo ansjuud tingen if coverable. Der will Lilith forgen not then a magic, one manufactured clip or a doctored image carefully positioned in front of the specific individuals who held the most influence over your path. Think about the collaboration that went cold without any explanation ever being offered to you. Think about the contact who was genuinely enthusiastic about what you were building and then simply went silent without reason. Think about the messages you sent that were never answered. What you were experiencing in those moments was not a change of heart on anyone's part. What had already landed in their private messages or been quietly delivered through someone they trusted had done its work before you ever had an opportunity to represent yourself or your truth. Some of the fabricated material moved through broader networks where your name was known and your work was gaining real traction. It was designed not to create an obvious explosion of accusation, because explosions attract scrutiny and invite questions, but to generate a murmur, a quiet, sourceless doubt. A whisper that began with, "I am not certain, but I heard something," and spread through networks with no traceable origin point attached to it. That was exactly the intention. Doubt without a verifiable source, suspicion with no anchor, a question mark placed over your name that no one could point to directly, but that everyone could feel shifting the atmosphere around you. And the cruelest calculation in all of it, your own face was used as the delivery vehicle. The fabrication did not distance itself from your image. It placed your face at the center of content, designed to represent the opposite of everything you actually are. Your likeness was sent to the exact people who most needed an accurate and unobstructed view of you, carrying precisely the impression designed to make them pull back, buckle face. When forensic analysis is applied to fabricated content, the content cannot conceal what it is. And when the people who pulled back because of what they were shown are eventually presented with documented, technical proof of fabrication, something happens that the person behind this never prepared for. Those people do not feel neutral about having been deceived. Their perception was engineered without their knowledge, and people who discover that their judgment was deliberately hijacked do not stay quiet about it. Your restoration does not arrive gradually or apologetically. It arrives with the force of a tide that has been held back and then released all at once. Pay close attention here, because this is the part that transforms the entire picture of what you are dealing with. The person behind the operation against you is not only facing you, they are facing something considerably larger than this situation alone. Scrutiny has been building around this individual that began before what they did to you. What was done to your name and your image is the most recent expression of a longer pattern of deception, one that has been accumulating a documented trail over time, one that other parties have been quietly and methodically following. And then, in what can only be described as the arrogance of someone who genuinely believed they were permanently untouchable, this person extended their operation to include AI fabrication of your likeness. They added the deep fake campaign. They added the engineered character assassination. In doing so, without realizing it, they delivered to the people already watching them exactly the additional evidence those people had been building toward. What happened to you is not an isolated incident. It is the piece that completes a much larger picture. Your situation gives authority and specificity to a case that was already under careful construction. You are not merely someone seeking personal vindication, though that vindication is fully and completely yours to claim. You are, without having chosen this role, a central part of something that will bring consequences to bear on a person whose pattern of harm extends well beyond what was done to you specifically. Do not move the moment the first piece of evidence arrives. Do not share anything before it has been properly examined and formally authenticated. Do not hand partial information to partial recipients out of urgency to be believed right now. The complete picture, every piece of it, fully documented and forensically verified, is what produces results that hold. Patience in this moment is not passivity. Patience is power in its most disciplined and effective form. The process is already moving. Your job is to be positioned correctly when it reaches its conclusion. But ondels kost that tutupiu trochelis kout, but parting doric zeto offen street geeth, the mavajapog cannot plods for, condumat kout plat. When the full picture comes into focus, when all the evidence is in your hands, authenticated and documented, when the complete scope of what was done to you becomes impossible to rationalize or explain away, you are going to feel the pull to unleash. You are going to want to use the full force of your voice, your platform, your reach, and your words to publicly and completely dismantle the person who built this against you. Your voice is powerful enough to do exactly that. A carefully constructed public statement from you could demolish whatever remaining standing this person still has. You possess that capacity, and it is real, and it is fully earned. Not because the consequences this person faces are undeserved. They are entirely deserved. Not because the truth should remain hidden. It absolutely should not. But because the version of you that is walking into what comes next does not carry destruction energy with it. The recognition that is incoming, the collaboration that is forming, the momentum that was blocked and is now unblocking, all of that belongs to a version of you that has genuinely moved beyond this chapter. Publicly annihilating someone, even someone who has fully earned that outcome, tethers your energy to that person long after the moment has passed. It places the person who harmed you at the center of your public identity when they deserve nothing more than a footnote in your history. Here is the move instead. You handle this through proper channels, legally and formally, where that is warranted. You give the evidence to the people positioned to act on it with real authority. You make one clear, composed statement, if a statement is required of you, and then you go completely quiet on the subject. Wrong. The phrase you are looking for is simple. Thank you for the information. This will be handled appropriately, and then you turn away, and you do not look back. That single move, composed, unhurried, undramatic and definitive, is more devastating to someone who invested all of that effort in provoking a reaction from you than any public confrontation you could engineer. Your non-reaction is the verdict. Your calm is the domination. The expansion of your life in the silence that follows is the most eloquent statement you will ever make about who held the power in this situation all along. There is something important to sit with about the era we are living in, because the very technology that was weaponized against you is also the primary reason you are going to win this croon. AI fabrication tools have become impressively convincing. They are capable enough now to deceive a casual observer who is not actively looking for signs of manipulation. But here is what the person who used these tools either did not know or deliberately chose to ignore. The forensic and legal infrastructure surrounding this technology has been developing in direct proportion to the technology itself. Right now, specialists exist whose entire professional focus is the authentication of digital media. These professionals examine video and image files the way a forensic accountant examines financial records, systematically, layer by layer, looking for the precise data points where the files do not behave the way authentic media behaves. With AI-generated content, the data almost always reveals the manipulation somewhere. The software that generates a convincing face produces characteristic patterns in how it renders reflected light, in how it handles the fine boundary between hair and the surrounding environment, in how it processes facial motion at speed. These patterns are not visible to someone watching on a screen, but they are completely legible to the detection tools built specifically to find them. What this means for you is concrete. Every piece of fabricated material created using your likeness is not only morally indefensible and legally actionable, it is technically detectable and formally provable. The fabrication can be established as documented fact rather than argued as allegation. Once the fabrication is established through formal analysis, every consequence it produced, every relationship it damaged, every opportunity it redirected, every door it closed against you, becomes part of a documented harm with a documented and attributable cause. You are not arriving at this situation as someone with a grievance to argue. You are arriving with verified technical evidence that carries formal weight. That is not a debate. That is a case with documented standing, and cases built on verified evidence resolve in favor of the person who is telling the truth. Once you understand that someone was willing and capable of using AI fabrication against you, the intelligent response is not fear, it is informed and deliberate strategy. You do not shrink back, you do not disappear from the spaces where your voice carries weight. What you do is stop moving through those spaces with the same unguarded openness you brought before you understood what was possible. Start paying attention to your digital presence with genuine intention. A large and publicly accessible collection of your image, captured across varied angles, conditions, and contexts, is exactly what makes high-quality AI fabrication easier to produce with convincing results. The person who came for you had enough material to work with because it was freely available. Going forward, you make conscious and deliberate decisions about what you share publicly, where you share it, and in what form. Not because you stop showing up fully, but because you show up with deliberate control over your own image and presence, rather than unrestricted access. Wonderbal purported your X1. De vernieuwingsplannen competi ascleviquentium, checluded everyfor the through the spirit you for liquidity to be a stupitodos summits. The platforms where your voice lives, the networks where your name carries influence, the communities where your work reaches people, all of these can be maintained with greater discernment than before. This is not about building barriers. It is about exercising the kind of selective, purposeful access that someone who understands the value of what they carry naturally maintains. There is also the matter of your creative and professional output. Everything that is distinctly yours, your voice, your methods, your perspective, your body of work, can be formally protected. Your work can be documented with clear timestamps, registered where registration applies, and established without ambiguity as originating with you under your own name and your own authorship. This applies not only to what was targeted in the past, but to everything you produce from this moment forward, so that nothing carrying your name or your likeness can ever again be mistaken for something you did not create. Undoubtedly, you entered this chapter as one version of yourself. You are emerging from it as a more aware, more strategic and more protected version, and that version operates not from fear, but from hard-earned mastery. Justice is not something you have to chase down, it is something you allow to arrive, and the difference between chasing and allowing determines not just the outcome, but how you feel and who you are when the outcome lands. Chasing justice locks you into the energy of conflict. It keeps your focus trained backward rather than forward. It keeps the person who harmed you at the center of your attention, when your attention is the most valuable resource you possess, and every bit of it belongs to what you are building and where you are going. Allowing justice means trusting that what has already been set in motion, the scrutiny building around this individual, the fabricated material now subject to formal forensic examination, the documented pattern of deception accumulating its own weight, is proceeding exactly as it should. Your role is not to be the instrument of punishment. Your role is to be the living, undeniable, thriving proof that what was attempted against you did not work. Vowed. Your continued growth is the reckoning. Your expanding credibility is the reckoning. Your expanding credibility is the reckoning. Your name being restored to every space it was poisoned in, that is justice in its most complete and satisfying form. It is not only consequence for the person who harmed you, it is full and public restoration for you, both at the same time moving together. This individual will face what they built. That facing will happen in formal proceedings where those are warranted, in the collapse of the credibility they constructed on a foundation that was never real, in the relationships that have been falling away as the truth expands into every space the fabrication once occupied, and in the particular exhaustion of maintaining a constructed life that was never genuinely theirs. Toes, that process is already underway. You do not need to monitor it. You do not need updates on its progress. You do not need to watch it unfold. Turn your full attention to the light that is ahead of you. Everything that is behind you is being handled. Through all of it, the AI-generated lie wearing your face, the campaign that moved against your name, the people who stepped back from you because of what they were shown, the opportunities that were quietly rerouted around you, through every single part of it, you did not stop. The light kept turning, your calling kept running underneath everything, doing exactly what it was designed to do, reaching the people it was designed to reach, undimmed at the core by any of it. That is not ordinary luck. That is not simple persistence. That is anointing. That is the evidence of something backing you that no technology, no campaign, and no sustained level of human interference can override. Something covered your light when you could not see how. Something kept the fire alive through every season when you could barely feel its heat yourself. And that same something is now making itself fully and unmistakably known through the evidence on its way to you, through the truth rising to the surface, through the door opening wide on the far side of all of this. Receive what is coming. Receive it fully without minimizing it and without being overwhelmed by it. Nothing that was done to you in the dark diminished what you actually are. Not one fabricated image. Not one planted lie, not one cold silence where warmth had previously existed. None of it reached the real you. It reached your reputation, your external perception, your temporary access to certain people and certain opportunities. All of those things are being restored. The core of you, the part that generates the light, that carries the calling, that holds your gifts and your purpose, was never touched by any of it. It ran at full capacity throughout the entire ordeal, waiting only for the interference around it to be removed so that it could reach its full expression again. The interference is being cleared. You are standing inside that clearing right now. So here is what you do with everything you have received here. You stand up, not with anger, but with complete groundedness. You stand in the full height of what you carry and what you were built for. You receive the evidence when it arrives, with the composure of someone who has always known the truth and was simply waiting for the documentation to confirm it. You move through every formal and practical step with the precision and patience of someone who understands that thorough action is more powerful than fast action. You close what needs to be closed without drama and without looking back. You step toward the opportunity that is approaching. You say yes to what is coming for you. And then you shine. Not because circumstances have finally aligned in your favor, not because someone gave you permission, not because the person who tried to stop you has been brought fully to account. You shine because that is what you are at your irreducible core. That is what you have always been. That is what this entire passage, the fabrication, the campaign, the darkness, the forensic exposure, the reckoning, and the full restoration was always, underneath everything, about you shining, regardless of what was thrown against your light, chosen one. The people who need what you carry are already moving toward you. They have been navigating in the direction of your light. Through all of this, keep it on, keep it turning. What was deployed against you could not extinguish it, and nothing ever will. This is your vindication. This is your restoration. This is where you begin. Bertoccio, hold on to your